Hey everybody, welcome to our last prep football installment of the year. I'm James Yodice, high school sports editor at the Journal. Ken Sickenger with me. This is it. This is the last you'll see of our mugs for a while. So we're going to talk real quick about championship weekend. Always a fun weekend. And we're actually going to go in reverse order this week. We're going to start with a 3A championship game. We've got Robertson, the 5 seed, playing at Dexter, number 2. You and I both like Robertson in this game, especially after Robertson beat St. Mike's on the road in the quarterfinals and then beat previously undefeated Hope last week in the semifinals.
Right, and we usually like to pick upsets during the year, but somehow, even though we both picked Robertson in this game, it just doesn't feel like an upset. I think the Cardinals are ready to win.
No, and Robertson, I think, is an 11-win team. It just doesn't feel like an upset here.
No, it doesn't at all. And like you kind of pointed out, they've been in the state championship repeatedly now. I got to feel like this is their turn.
Yeah, Robertson has been the state runner-up in the 4A division the last 3 years. They dropped down a class this year. Ken and I both like their chances this week. So that is Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock in Dexter. As we move into the 4A matchup, we've up in Taos between Taos, the number 3 seed, Bloomfield, the number 5 seed. It's supposed to be cold, maybe even snowy in Taos on Saturday. We both like Taos in this game.
We do, and I don't know that snow is really any kind of an advantage for either one of these teams. They're both used to cold weather. But I think other than one game where Taos played really badly against St. Pius, they've just been dominant. Their offense hasn't been stopped. I don't see any reason to think that it's going to be stopped this week.
And I'll be honest, that's exactly the reason why I picked against them the last 2 weeks, because I was at that St. Pius game, and they just did not impress at all. They were unenergetic, and that was the reason I picked against them in the quarterfinals against Lovington, and they won by 50 points. And I picked against them last week in Portales, a game they won pretty handily as well. I think what happened was that loss at St. Pius just sort of allowed them to reboot their season. Sometimes you just have to have that, and it just gets you on the right path, not necessarily the way you want, but I think that's what happened here.
Yeah, that might have been just exactly the kick in the pants that they needed.
Yeah, and Taos has got, and this is 2 good defenses in this game, 2 of the best scoring defenses in 4A, but we both like Taos to win their first state championship on Saturday. That is 1 o'clock on Saturday in Taos. As we move into the 5A game, which is certainly one of the more interesting games of the weekend, we've got Las Lunas going for its first ever state championship in football. They are a 3 seed playing at Roswell, the number 1 seed. That's Saturday afternoon at the Wool Bowl. I covered the first game between these two back in Las Lunas in mid-September, and Roswell just put it to them, 42-20. I picked Roswell in this game. I wouldn't say that I'm comfortable.
Yeah, and I actually went the other way. I think I've seen Las Lunas a couple of times now, and surprisingly enough, even after they lost their starting quarterback, they've played extremely well, and they've maybe even better on defense.
Yeah, and Las Lunas had a very big win over Belen in the quarterfinals, and then they just stomped Goddard last week, which really surprised me. Not that they won the game, but the margin of victory, which was 3 touchdowns. That was a team that we expected more from. So Las Lunas has a ton of momentum, and sometimes I think going on the road in these state championship games, to me, people make a bigger deal out of it than it is. It's an inconvenience more than an actual home field edge. Other than Artesia, and I've said this many times, other than Artesia, I can't think of many venues here where there's a true home field edge. Wool Bowl is close. Goddard and Roswell over the years have had a very good edge there, but this is not a big issue that Las Lunas going on the road, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either, and I think they're ready for the challenge. I think this is going to be one of those games where they kind of take that us against the world mentality and go down there with nothing to lose.
Yeah, and of course this would be a great feat for Jeremy Maupin, the Las Lunas coach, just his second season after coming up for Artesia. What an accomplishment that would be if they could get it done. So last but not least, the final game of the year for us, the 6A championship game Saturday afternoon in Rio Rancho between number 2 La Cueva, number 1 Cleveland, the top 2 seeds. This is what you'd want.
2 undefeated teams. It doesn't get a whole lot better, and I think you're seeing obviously the state's best offense in Cleveland against the state's best defense in La Cueva.
Yeah, I was talking to Cleveland's personnel, and they think that other than the game they played against El Paso Franklin early in the season, this La Cueva defensive front, their front four, 2 middle linebackers, probably the best they've seen all season. That to me is really the really interesting matchup, that experienced Cleveland offensive line going up against that front from La Cueva with those 2 great middle linebackers, Lawrence Bussey and Boomer Mady. So that is going to be a fascinating story within the game. I
think it absolutely is, and I think it's going to be a situation where Cleveland actually has to come out and throw it a little bit. Can they do that? They've done it a few times. They've shown that they can do it when they have to. But I think they're going to have to in this game.
Yeah, and the thing with La Cueva, too, their offense, and they're coming off a big win over Centennial last week, 41-14, one of the best offensive games the Bears have played all year. They got DeAndre Williams going early in that game, over 100 yards in the first quarter alone, and when they do that, I think they're a better team. When they come out and throw it a ton, I think they struggle to get things going. When Williams gets going early, that benefits everybody.
Oh, absolutely it does. And I think this is a case where La Cueva's defense is going to have to set the tone for them in this game. They need a turnover or two. Cleveland hasn't turned it over much, but if La Cueva can force them to give them a short field a couple of times, they got a shot.
Yeah, and I should tell you, Cleveland, I believe, has not turned the ball over in 5 games, and in fact has only turned it over 5 times the whole season, which is really astonishing, considering that all their skill kids are underclassmen. I mean, this team really was built more for 2019 than this year. All these underclassmen, they've only turned it over 5 times against a hard schedule.
They have, and they throw it a fair amount. At least they have in the second half of the season. So that's a very impressive step for a high school team.
I think this game will be close. I'm taking Cleveland in a close game. Even though La Cueva's got a lot of championship game experience from last year, having lost to Manzano, Cleveland's been the best team. It would be hard to get away from that now.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I think Cleveland can afford to make maybe a few more mistakes just because they have that explosive offense, and La Cueva's going to need to have more of a perfect game.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, we hope you enjoy Championship Weekend. I hope for those of you who've been watching us all year, you've enjoyed our give and take. We're going to try and keep this fresh as we go forward. And we should thank our boss, Randy Harrison, who's been filming us the whole season. He's not going to give us a wrap party, but he has taken the time to do this with us every week, so we appreciate Randy doing that. Anyway, enjoy the Championship Weekend and enjoy your winter. We'll see you next year. Thanks.